doomed, didn't he? Through the whole campaign, he looked like the sort of guy that bald kids in the queue at Alton Towers would go, "You go first, mate." They're going to have a Liberal Democrat leadership election now, and to stand for election, you need the support of 10% of the MPs. There's only 8 of them. They need the support of less than 1 person. All I'm asking, Jim, is that you lend me the support of your thighs and torso. Do you reckon Lib Dem MPs are standing about now going, "Are we others? Do we come under others now? We're not even the biggest yellow party anymore." The Greens, I love them, but they come across as a wee bit smug sometimes, don't they? Like the sort of people that would hire a babysitter for a toddler instead of leaving them trapped in a greased bath. I thought it was good that the SNP managed to uncover some positivity in Scottish people, because we are negative as a people. If Kanye had been born in Glasgow, he'd be called No You Canny. Do you remember the bit in the campaign where Cameron forgot the name of the football team that he pretends to support? He's working undercover as a human being. Somebody works with him on this stuff with flashcards or something. "Where do you live, David?" "A castle." "No, a house!" "Oh, that's right, a house, yes." Boris Johnson did the same. Do you see Boris Johnson made a joke about Nicola Sturgeon? And he said, Nicola Sturgeon being in charge of Britain would be like King Herod being in charge of a baby farm. And I watched that and I thought, there are baby farms? He's let that slip. "Oh no, the public don't know about that." "Oh yes, that's right. Oh, did I say baby farms? I meant to say Aston Villa." Britain's a strange country anyway. You can have sex at 16. You have to be 18 to get married. You can join the army at 16. You have to be 18 to buy Call of Duty. You can register to vote at 16, but you have to be 18 before politicians stop finding you attractive. They tighten up the propaganda during an election. Have you noticed? They don't use words like poverty on TV. They talk about disadvantaged people. And they say disadvantaged because you're not allowed to say fucked on the news. "Hi, I'm here in Glasgow where everybody's fucked. They're born fucked. They're gonna die fucked. And in between we have an election where they get slapped around the face with a cock made of lies." So here's how the show works. I'm going to be telling you my views on the election before asking my studio audience to decide if they agree with me. Joining me to discuss all the issues, please welcome my co-defendants in a forthcoming libel trial, Sarah Pascoe and Catherine Ryan. Did you see anything that particularly caught your eye in the campaign, Catherine?
Yes. I liked Vari Black.
Oh, this is this new 20-year-old SNP MP.
That's right. Well, Ms. Black had a Twitter account as a young woman, 15 years old, and that never goes away, does it? And so we've brought up some of her old tweets, and here's one of them. Maths. And she also tweeted, "It's coming home. It's cumin home. Football's coming home. Is it fuck ya wanks?"
I think that's a reference to England going out of the World Cup.
Ah.
And in England, of course, their song is "Football's Coming Home," and she is riposting, "Is it fuck ya wanks?"
That's the kind of tweet you write if you're actually dancing at the time.
Fuck England! And did she peak there?
No, she's got one more. "The nuns can get to fuck." And I think that they deserve sex too. And see, I think that this exemplifies this poor girl, 15 years old, had access to social media. And I want young people to know that means everything you do and say and think and feel is published forever. And that's intense. And I think teenagers deserve our respect because we didn't grow up that way. We made mistakes and people forgot. Like when I sucked off 24 guys in Magaluf, I wrote it in my diary. And these tweets only make me like her more.
Did anything catch your eye, Sarah?
Yes, keeping it in the realm of young people, there was this amazing 15-year-old who I really liked, and he did a mock collection at his school, and he was given UKIP, and then he realised he loved UKIP, and that Nigel Farage was amazing. So this is him in Harry Potter glasses, talking passionately and eloquently about Nigel Farage.
Nigel Farage is a very infusing leader, if you know what I mean. You know, he can really arouse people in the way other people can't. Nigel sort of, we can do this if we leave the EU, we can regain our sovereignty. He's a lot more inspiring, you know. He's sort of like Martin Luther King.
He's like Martin Luther King, is what he says at the end. Like, oh, I can't wait to hear Nigel Farage's "I Have a Dream" speech. All the little white children holding hands with all the little white children, drinking a Bombardier's. What's interesting, my sister is a school teacher and she did a mock election and UKIP won by 90%. So this is a real thing. Nigel Farage is an amazing communicator. Young people can understand what he's saying and he seems more honest. And actually that's the danger of it, is because he's not doing the whole bacon sandwich practice, he's just going, yep, did that, said that. He cares less.
Yeah.
He's actually doing this incredible job.
I think everybody sort of recognises Farage as this sort of character from, like, this sort of person down the pub that people buy drinks just to see what they'll say.
Yeah, but you know what it was?
Get him a whiskey and tell him to phone in Chinese, what's this?
But did you ever have, like, when you were younger, did you ever have, like, someone else's dad who would let you drink and would buy you facts? That's Nigel Farage, and, like, actually, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But you don't want me to bring Leroy round. How's that, Nigel? Well, it's not just Sarah and Catherine I have to argue with tonight. I've got an entire room full of people to wage a bitter, negative campaign against, my studio audience. Tonight, instead of voting in a sociopathic government, they'll be deciding whether I'm right or wrong as I make 3 propositions based on the election. First up, this election was a choice between so many identical-sounding politicians offering identical-sounding policies and resulted in Britain electing the identical Prime Minister to last time. Which brings me to this proposition. It's best not to vote so you can watch the whole thing for the fucking circus it is. I don't vote. I've never voted. I see it as the one day a year that I don't have to go and hang around a school. And I noticed during the election they tried to sell the idea of the election. Oh, people want to see me debate David Cameron. This is the debate that the public want to see. Really, put it on in the cinema. Make Danny Dyer's box office receipts look like fucking Avatar. I don't even really read the newspapers anymore. I just lie to myself and cut out the middleman. But look, I don't think that we live in a democracy. I think we've got an unelected second chamber, we've got an unelected head of state. We're not really offered a meaningful choice in the election. And I know it's a taboo thing to say don't vote, but all we're doing is rubber stamping or ratifying a system that doesn't give us a choice. Sarah, you appalled by that?
I understand where you're coming from, and obviously that's a really important point. I vote, but I vote like you blow out candles on your birthday.
Yeah.
Like, so everyone goes, make a wish, and you go, please don't dismantle the NHS. But you know, but I think, okay, so my analogy would be, remember Celebrity Big Brother? Remember it, it's still there. So you know how like the first series of Celebrity Big Brother was on, and kind people watched it, and generous people watched it, and they thought, this is not for me, it's nasty, it's abusive, it's a horrible system, I won't vote next year. That did not make Celebrity Big Brother go away. It made them get worse people. And then 3 years later, 4 years later, you're going, oh, who should I vote for? A racist or a homophobe?
Yeah.
I wonder though, Sarah, if what you're really saying in that analogy is we've got to the homophobes and racists, keep voting, it'll get better. Because I think...
No, you just have to choose what you hate less.
Yeah.
You will end up with the worst of two evils. That seems to be how it's worked out.
I mean, I agree. You have to cast a vote one way or another. You just got to choose the best of the worst.
So what about...
And it is sad, but you still have to choose.
So do you think, I mean, some kind of really great dictatorship would be better? A socialist dictatorship?
I just think we've got, not dictatorship, but I think we've got to think more creatively. So maybe you have an election where you go down to the polling station, all the candidates are there, we each glue a feather on the one that we support, and then when the polls close, they all jump off the town hall. I know that this doesn't work. There's only so long you can persevere with something that doesn't work.
Well, currently, no. It looks like it doesn't work.
But is it not working?
But what if all of the people that felt like you, Mr. Frankie Boyle, and were not voting, had voted Labour and thrown out the Conservative government?
Well, this is the
you
thing.
now have that guilt of saying, well, I
They would have a
didn't help.
slightly different group of horrible monsters.
That's true as well. But I think Ed Miliband is probably a very good man. I can tell because I'm not attracted to him.
Now then, for me, the most chilling bit of the whole election was when the BBC revealed the results of the exit poll to the toes of Big Ben. Let's have a look at the terrifying moment David Dimbleby announced our fate.
Remember, this is an exit poll, very carefully calculated, not necessarily on the nail. But here it is, 10 o'clock, and we are saying the Conservatives are the largest party. And here are the figures which we have. Quite remarkable, this exit poll. The Conservatives on 316.
I was actually terrified. Well, what's the next election going to be? A wet Japanese girl in rags crawling out of the TV? Conservatives again!
This is how I want to give all of my bad news. With the chimes of Big Ben in the background, like, hi, Greg, I haven't seen you for ages. Dong. I think I gave you chlamydia.
Most politicians are well aware that we hate them, and some try to assimilate our hatred into their campaign. For example, this excruciating clip shows Nick Clegg trying to win our hearts by reading out unpleasant things that people have tweeted about him.
Tom McRae, that Nick Clegg, he's a piece of work, and by work I mean shit. Fluff custard, Nick Clegg appears to have scrotal skin at the back of his neck. Bertie Spangles. Bertie Spangles. Give up, you Nicholas Parsons nonce-loving nutsack.
We thought those probably weren't the rudest tweets about Nick Clegg, and he had probably edited them. So we had a little look on Twitter. It was literally the first thing we found. Nick Clegg, why don't you just shit in an Asda bag and put it on your head and give everyone a laugh? And then we had, fuck off, Nick Clegg, you rat fucker. Succinct and to the point. You lied. Every value you've ever had was betrayed in 2010. You should fuck off into a hole and die, you cunt. Now, the broadcasters tried to get us interested in the election by hosting a series of leaders' debates. Here's Plaid Cymru's Leanne Wood facing a particularly baffling question from a confused-looking audience member on BBC Wales.
And only if all 4 countries agree to pull out should we pull out. We shouldn't, in that family, allow the biggest member of the family to decide what to do for all the others.
But
in a modern family, all members get to have a say.
I was speaking to builders the other day, and they said to me that Welsh schools are no longer teaching Welsh in their schools due to the EU.
Right, OK.
Somewhere his builders are sitting there going, he's going to do it. It's gone on TV.
I'm just so sick of builders. Like, woo, baby, the Welsh aren't teaching Welsh in schools anymore.
Now then, maybe the only reason I don't vote is that I'm a world-weary, jaded grown-up. Perhaps we need to counter my middle-aged cynicism. Here to give us a child's eye view of the election, please welcome 8-year-old twins, Ewan and Archie Pinder. Which one's Ewan and which one's Archie?
I'm Ewan. I'm Archie.
Hiya. And did you follow the election?
Yeah. Sort of.
Sort of. If you could pass one law, what would it be?
Homework.
Homework law.
Yeah.
I'm just taking a guess here and imagine you mean no homework.
Yeah.
Good. And do you know who any of the leaders are? We've got some pictures of them. Should we have a look at them? Do you know which one that is?
David Cameron.
That is David Cameron. What do you think is wrong with his face? I sort of imagine his face is a bit like, do you know if you've wrapped like cling film around your knee? It sort of gets like that. And who else have we got? Do you know him?
Nick Clegg.
Wow, well done. Half the audience don't know him. What else have we got?
Ed Miliband.
Now, I always think he looks a bit like a children's TV character.
Yeah.
Or maybe a toy for your dog. What else have we got?
Scottish National Party.
Yeah. Do you know anything about Scotland?
Only that it's got Glasgow.
Yes, it sure does.
Capital.
It's the right answer. Who else have we got? If grown-ups reacted like that, the country would be much better.
Is it UK?
Yeah, it's UKIP. Do you know what he's called?
No.
Nigel Farage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a bit possibly drunk. I don't know if he's a bad man, but he's Yeah, I do. He's a bad man. So, if you had a vote, have you any idea who you would have voted for?
Conservatives.
Why?
Because they said they'll stop taxing people.
They'll stop taxing people. That's
a good one for grown-ups.
How much are we paying you for this? One last question.
Yeah.
Do you support a football team?
Yeah.
And have you ever forgotten what it is?
No. Same Cameron did.
Who do you support, man?
We support two, Liverpool and Barcelona.
Cool, man. That's one of them will win, and the other one have a kind of good underdog thing to them. That's good, isn't it? Well, it's been a pleasure to meet you guys. I got you some presents, but you can't unwrap them here because of like branding and promotion issues. But please, it goes away with you. It's been a real pleasure to meet you, man.
It's been a real pleasure to meet you too.
Hey, take care.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're an archer!
You can't do that kind of thing to a 34-year-old childless woman. My ovaries were trying to jump out of my body.
Okay, it's time to put the principle of not voting to a vote. If you agree with me, it's best not to bother. It's green. If you think I'm wrong, it's red. Naturally, I'm going to abstain. Vote now. And we have almost all red. You're disagreeing violently with me telling you not to vote. So you have voted to tell people to vote on a TV show that isn't going to be on TV. Well done, democracy. I feel we've all achieved something. Now, the SNP have won 56 seats, but Scottish optimism has already been buried under a Tory landslide. With 5 years of Conservative rule ahead of us, I propose this. Scotland is doomed. During the campaign, Nicola Sturgeon was characterised as the most dangerous woman in Britain by someone who'd never met any other Scottish women. They say that you get more Conservative as you get older, which is maybe the reason that there's no Tories in Scotland. But let's be honest, the Tories have a hard-on of hate for Scotland, and they'll be fracking the shit out of it. They'll be fracking the shit out of Scotland until everybody's going to the optician, only to be told that their eyesight is fine and it's the country that's vibrating. Sarah, we're at the mercy of a hostile Tory government. Do you think we're doomed?
No, because Scottish people are the most resilient race in the world. They're incredible. It's like their bones are made of granite. They've got Scotch in their veins. They work better under oppression. That's when they were inventing all of that stuff.
Cockroaches are resilient. They're not having a good time. Oh, great, a nuclear war. Look, Scotland sort of invented stuff. This gets overblown, right? We invented penicillin only because we didn't clear up properly.
I think you might have mistaken apathy for hatred. It's not that Westminster wishes you any specific harm. They just couldn't give a fuck about you. Which is why Scotland wants to go independent in the first place.
I think what we're arguing about here is the definition of hatred.
Yeah. See, Scotland's got everything. You've got oil, you've got shortbread, you've got penguins, you've got pandas. There are more pandas in Scotland than Labour MPs. And as we all know, just one, all right? So you've got 56 seats. Just one Scottish person in a bar can ruin a bar. And so I think that the 56 seats, those are going to be really powerful ones. And I see a great time for change in Scotland and a new Britain.
Okay, I mean, I accept that, but the things that are important to us won't be on the table. Things like Trident, they want to get a nuclear missile base out of their country.
I think you should give it to Iran. Can you imagine the look on their little faces?
Their little faces would light up, wouldn't they? Not as much as the Israelis' little faces would light up.
It's better to be the underdog still, because could you, Frankie Boyle, handle the pressure of being at the top? Could you be a cunt on the world stage? Look at England. Do you want them to be the ones who get sympathy all over the world? Like,
to be honest, if you're challenging me to be a cunt on a stage...
Catherine, I do think the Scottish are going to drive everyone else out of Parliament. It's like the people that turn up at the end of a house party that's like everyone else is trying to leave because they're scared. So none of the MPs will turn up for votes. No one, they'll put the accent on really thickly so no one even understands what they're agreeing to anymore. They're like,
we're not putting that on. Now, one of the reasons the Labour vote slumped so heavily in Scotland is that Scottish Labour force-fed us the horrible grinding positivity of their leader, Jim Murphy. In these disturbing scenes, he's visiting an old people's home on his campaign trail when terrible news for his party breaks.
Jim Murphy in party mode, but I suppose a wait would be more appropriate for Scottish Labour today, given the latest poll showings. An Ipsos Murray poll for STV News that shows the SNP could win all 59 seats north of the border. We'll maybe try and grab a word with Jim Murphy when it's appropriate. I don't want to disturb the goings-on at the moment. But, of course, should Labour lose in all seats, and, of course, everybody else in opposition to the SNP, then that would mean that Jim Murphy himself, who's standing in East Renfrewshire, would not be an MP anymore.
That was so sad. Oh, the hokey-cokey. You put a shotgun in, you blow your whole brain out.
And the fact that the couple definitely did not want him involved. He'd had time to edge his way back into it, like, I knew it was wrong, guys.
The SNP held a rally in Glasgow before the election where people were asked if they had a message for the politicians of Westminster. Let's have a look at some of them. The classic fuck off, obviously. We also had fuck off West Monsters. Glaswegian 32-year-old. We had we are not going away, which is a strange thing for an independence movement to say. We're staying right here and being independent. Catherine, do you feel Tory rule is going to be good? I feel they hate us after the independence referendum. Yeah. They know that if we'd gone, they'd have been left with no source of energy except burning suppressed paedophile dossiers. Meaning that England would have run out of fuel within 250 years.
Well, I think
they're going to punish us.
No, I think that 5 years goes by very quickly, and in 5 years' time, we'll just be where we are now. You know, just looking back, a few different things, like, oh, remember when we had hands where iPhones are now? Yeah.
One Scot who didn't do so well in the election was George Galloway, who lost his seat in Bradford West. Here he is in his trademark black hat, accepting defeat with typical good grace.
The hyena can dance on the lion's grave, but it can never be a lion. And in any case, I'm not in my grave.
I always think, never start unpicking your own metaphor. I am not in my grave, I am also not a lion. Lions don't have graves. Can hyenas dance? I'm going to Africa to find out, and I will return to Westminster at the head of a dancing hyena army. I don't know where I'm going with this.
I thought he was going to end with like that.
Now, it's down to my studio audience to see if they agree with me. If you think that the remarkable showing for the SNP can't hide the fact that Scotland is doomed, it's green. If you disagree, it's red. Please vote now. It's sort of about half and half. I think we're slightly doomed. The people of Scotland will be delighted to hear that they've been upgraded from cursed. Throwing their windows up, hooray, we're doomed! Before my next debate, it's time to talk to the audience. Before the show, we asked everyone in our audience to fill out a questionnaire about themselves and their views on the election. So, have we got, where's Leona, a Conservative supporter? Hey, how you doing, Leona?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very good. You're presumably delighted about the election result?
Fairly happy. I'm not delighted, but
You're Scottish.
I am.
You're Scottish Tory. Well, saying you had to leave. And you said in your questionnaire that you'd like Jeremy Clarkson as Prime Minister.
That was less so me and him.
You're such a Conservative that you let your man take decisions for you. Nikki Brown. Got Nikki?
Frankie.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, thank you.
You asked a question to David Cameron. He managed to get into one of his events, one of these stage-managed events.
Yes.
And you asked a question to him and Boris Johnson. Let's have a look at the clip filmed in an overcrowded meeting room.
Do you think the UK's current democracy-crippling voter apathy is caused by the fact that its Prime Minister, Mayor of the capital and Chancellor were all in the same class at school, are all industriously dismantling the nation's assets and selling them off to their mates, are all related to banking families and have been proven over and over again to be singly self-interested in every political decision?
Well, that's a good and that's good.
Great. How did you get in? I imagine you got out quite easily. You work there?
Yeah.
All right, they come into your place of work?
Yeah.
Right. And I noticed, we don't show it there, but he completely avoided that question. It was the equivalent of, what do you think of Syria? My favourite cheese is Jarlsberg. And Boris as well, the horror of that.
Well, I quite like the fact that Boris backed me up by telling me that he'd gone to school with Ed Miliband as well, and I was like, that's my point. It wasn't just you lot.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I sort of wonder if that's how our elites are created, is at school. You know, so they do the same thing the Spartans do. They take them away from their families aged 7 or 8. They put them in a single-sex environment, and then they do what a mind control operation does. They bore you with Latin and cricket. What do you think cricket's for? And then they gradually introduce sodomy. Boris Johnson will have evolved that fringe as a kind of makeshift cum shield. Legally, I have to say, I'm not saying Boris Johnson was sodomised. Okay, well done, Nicky. Now, one of the key issues in this election was immigration. UKIP brought it to the top of the agenda, and the mainstream parties followed suit with promises of tighter border controls, tougher conditions for immigrants, and even a referendum to get us out of Europe. Which brings me to my next proposition. This election proves that Britain is racist to the core. I think my favourite moment of the campaign was when Nigel Farage dodged the question of whether Idris Elba should be the next James Bond. He did. Partly because I think Idris Elba would be a great James Bond. I want to see a James Bond movie where the pre-credit sequence is just a black guy trying to drive an Aston Martin through central London. Someone seems to be shooting at us, Bond. I think it's the Met. I understand that there's an anti-immigration position. It doesn't play out as a position. What are you going to do? Build a wall round Britain? Who's going to build it? It's not just the adults in this country who have a problem with immigrants. This is Labour's Tristram Hunt talking earnestly to a schoolboy while campaigning in Derby.
Do you know who you'd vote for?
UKIP.
You'd vote UKIP? Very good. Why is that?
Like get all the foreigners out of the country.
That was absolutely not the answer that the Shadow Education Secretary Tristram Hunt wanted.
I can't believe it cuts back to someone going, oh, kids say the funniest things. Could that be more inappropriate?
And just watching that kid going, well, that's definitely his own opinion. I think he read all the manifestos, really come up with his own idea.
Labour were so determined to show they'd be tough on border control that they made a mug that you can buy from their official website. See, I've got some official, there we go, an official racist mug. Oh, you're having your tea, what, I guess? We got, this is all real stuff that they really sell on the websites. We've got a UKIP high-vis jacket, in case you're worried that people won't know that you're a cunt in the dark. Here's my favourite thing that turned up. The Liberal Democrats' mascot is, I think, a dodo. Now, here to discuss whether Britain is racist to the core, please welcome rapper, poet and journalist Akala. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Great that you're here. I'm a big fan. Loving your album, man.
Thank you.
What do you think about this motion?
I think I wanted to give a short answer, but I can't because it's too complicated a question. I think that when we talk about race, we tend to focus on individual acts of prejudice, which is why UKIP often come up, because they'll overtly say stuff that we find offensive. But unfortunately, the issue of race, if we understand it, is a lot more insidious. And it takes a lot more of a historical view to understand the difference between individual bias and structural racism and privilege.
And the idea of Great Britain was intimately tied to the fact that Britain's invaded almost every country on the earth, literally. No, literally, there's a map, you can Google it. And so the idea of our greatness was intimately tied to this idea of empire, which was intimately tied to what Rudyard Kipling calls the white man's burden, to go and civilize all these stupid brown folks that have been writing and having civilizations for thousands of years. But let's forget all of that. And so if we fast forward to today, when we talk about structural racism in Britain, do we have the same institutional disparities in rates of imprisonment that they have in America? Yes, absolutely we do. Do we have the same disparities in terms of who's dying in police custody? Yes, indeed we do. In 2011, we were told we loved Libyans so much we wanted to bomb democracy into them. Less than 5 years later, we're leaving people fleeing the same conflict to drown in the sea, while giving a woman space in a national newspaper to refer to them as cockroaches. And when you refer to humans as cockroaches, that is a mandate for murder. Let's be clear about that. The moment human beings become non-human, that is a mandate for murder, and there's a long historical parallel of that. Today, Germany, the country that bombed this country, in our grandparents' lifetimes, so theoretically the grandchildren of Nazis can get in and out of England easier than the grandchildren of people from the Commonwealth who fought against the Nazis. And where do they come from? When we talk about immigrants, do we mean people from Australia and New Zealand? Didn't Boris Johnson go to Australia and say, hey, we're culturally the same? Was he talking about the Aborigines when he said that?
We call them expats.
Right. White people have such a different way of classifying themselves that white immigrants are expats and non-white immigrants are immigrants. So when we say immigrants, if we go to border control, we can go there, Yarlswood, and we go and look at who's there. It's not a bunch of white people from New Zealand. So we have structural forms of privilege and bias that are much more insidious and much more difficult to overcome. The reaction to Africans and Asians coming here post-World War II, to rebuild the country after the Queen's German cousins bombed it, the reaction to them was one of general hatred. It's illogical. These people who had formerly been colonized by Britain had fought in both world wars. India gave 2.5 million volunteers, for those who don't know. When we talk about being saved by America in the war, we want to talk about being saved by India and Russia. That would be a bit more accurate, but that's a bit inconvenient. But the reaction to those people and their descendants has been one that is about structural bias and privilege. The greatest metaphor for this might be Canary Wharf and Tower Hamlets. Sure. If you look at that predominantly Bengali community that has to look at Canary Wharf every day, how many of those people work in Canary Wharf other than to clean toilets?
I only got into that through grime. So the first thing, I'm listening to grime records and they're all rapping about E14.
Yeah.
And I'm going, where's that? And I'm like, Canary Wharf?
Yeah, they're definitely not rapping about I suppose what I'm saying is not about saying that there's bias and bigotry everywhere in the world. The country my grandparents come from, it's pretty much generally accepted that they don't like gay people. But what's interesting, race even plays a role in that. In Jamaica, we have disgraceful homophobia. No one ever says it's because of Christian fundamentalism. Because even though it is justified in explicitly Christian fundamentalist terms, because only Muslims do bad stuff because of their religion. Because we know almost all the Muslims in the world are brown. Whereas when a German wings pilot crashes and kills 150 people deliberately, or the man in Norway killed nearly 90 people, I was in Australia when that happened. This is how uniform the agreement is that white people will be portrayed differently. The Australian media referred to Andres Breivik as having terrorist-like tactics.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. Yeah. This guy killed almost 100 people, and he's just almost a terrorist.
And he'd written a crazy thing about Muslims.
No, it's very clear. I mean, he was a terrorist by any standard. The idea that white is right isn't just a European idea. It's an idea that has had insidious implications, because no matter what, the 700 people that were left to drown off the coast of the Mediterranean, were they white human beings, they wouldn't have been left to drown. And they certainly wouldn't be called cockroaches.
Well, casual discrimination isn't exclusive to Britain, of course. Let's see how one Australian news anchor dealt with the issue of race while talking to a pair of twins in this incredible clip.
One of the sisters is obviously black, the other is white. The Alma twins come from a mixed-race family in the UK. Maria has taken after her half-Jamaican mum with dark skin and brown eyes and curly dark hair. But Lucy got her dad's fair skin, good on her, along with straight red hair and blue eyes.
At least she was honest.
What gets me about it is we have this whole talk during the election about the Australian point system. Let's be more like Australia. Australia is one of the most racist countries in the world.
Yes.
And also they're putting forward the idea that black people don't belong in their country when all the white people get skin cancer and the original people were black. I mean, they were treated as flora and fauna until
Until
the
1967, they were legally classified as flora and fauna.
Yeah.
Plants and animals.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what we're supposed to aim at. And there's nowhere in the election campaign where I've seen that said. There's no one said Australia's not a good model.
Well, this is who Boris Johnson says we're culturally similar to. So at least he's being honest about at least his section of British society.
OK, well, let's have a look at an actual conversation that happened on Facebook recently. Someone's saying, off tomorrow for Poland Day. What the fuck? Never heard of it. Reply. And we don't get a fucking day off for St George's Day. What a joke this place is. As you say, they don't stay off for St George's Day, so who gives a flying fuck about Poland Day? For fuck's sake, it's for the Poles, we're British. Are you sure it's not polling day, hun? So, Carla, thanks very much for joining us. We pass the card here.